I'm Fred McMurray, and I'm here today with Eric Trout, Vice President of Harbor Freight Transport. We're talking about a topic that no one really seems to know that Harbor Freight Transport does, which is the FBA or Fulfillment by Amazon program, where people can sell their wares on Amazon, but yet unless you're just taking them yourself, you got to get them there. So welcome, Eric. Um,
Thank you.
Tell us how you got to, in a short period, tell us how you got to Harbor Freight Transport.
Um, I've been in the industry 27 years, worked, international, domestic, roles, etc. Harbor is a, 78-year-old third generation family run company. And, I've worked in family run businesses before, and this was a very attractive opportunity. Harbor had aspirations or has aspirations to expand their network. And, I've got a history of building out networks and developing solutions. And so the stars kind of aligned where, I had the opportunity to come on board and work with a great company with a great reputation and sound, solid history.
Excellent. So our topic today is, as I mentioned, fulfillment by Amazon, and you have deep experience in that field that you're bringing to Harbor Freight, and that's part of what we want to get out today. So, tell us what the FBA program is, and
Yeah.
then we'll launch into how Harbor Freight can help. But first, tell us what the FBA program is.
Yep. So Fulfillment by Amazon, FBA, is a program that they have for sellers or vendors to be able to have their products go into their fulfillment centers for distribution. So Amazon has numerous fulfillment centers geographically located around the US. And so they will take that product and then they will inject it into their fulfillment centers for order completion. But you will inject those products at one main fulfillment center or an IXD, a cross dock designated. And then from there, Amazon will explode that inventory out to more geographically located facilities. And that's how you can get the next day prime delivery aspect, right? So get the product closer to the people. So if you take a let's just say a smaller fulfillment by Amazon vendor, a product like a small product like makeup or razor blades or something of that sort, 6, 7 pallets of that product, is basically 6 or 12 months worth of inventory, and then that needs to go out to every or to the geographically strategic located fulfillment centers for distribution. So yeah, you've got Fulfillment by Amazon program, and there's basically two channels. You have a one-stop shop, which is we pay vendors, which means you can put that product into Amazon's supply chain and they will take it. It rides on their ocean carrier contracts. It'll go into their carrier network. You can utilize their customs broker for clearing the product into the U.S. Or there's what they
Wait, wait,
call
wait, wait, wait. Before you go on. So from what I heard here is if I'm a Amazon vendor, I can basically outsource all of the stuff to them. I get it to them, use their shipping, everything. What are some of the drawbacks of doing that?
um, you know, that's visibility is primarily, while you have good tracking, visibility of where the product is, while it's on the water and where it's at in the supply chain process, there's things, improper packaging, improper labeling, that these vendors, vendor compliance issues that they've got, really no visibility to. For instance, in a previous life, somebody was shipping barbells, right? Long cylindrical barbells. Well, logically you would want to ship those in a overpacked crate so they don't,
Yeah.
they don't
It's
roll
hap-
everywhere. So, yeah. Unfortunately, the Amazon fulfillment centers cannot accept that type of a wooden crate type packaging. So vendors have no visibility to that, right? When the product gets rejected, they'll get a notification, but they really have this, there's a black hole of, hey, what's going on with my product, right? They really have no idea that behind the scenes, somebody's going to have to take that and then repackage that, relabel it to meet Amazon specifications, and then finally get it delivered. All of that leads to that black hole of information and visibility leads to delays in your supply chain and getting your product, out to the consumer.
okay. So with Amazon doing it, all them, you kind of, I'm going to say, submit and pray.
Yes, they do have visibility to it, but you really don't have control, um, as much control as you would have if you shipped it within your own network, right? And you're
So,
communicating directly with the
all right.
warehouse, et cetera.
So we hit that first part of Amazon does it. And then there's the other way to do it where you mentioned you could use your own stuff or used. So tell us about that and how Harbor Freight fits in there.
Yeah, yeah. So the other method, I mean, vendors are able to use their existing supply chain. They're called what's called they pay vendors. So you can move it on your own ocean carrier contracts. You can utilize your own customs broker to do the customs clearance, etc. But then somehow you've got to get those products injected into the Amazon fulfillment centers, right? Harbor Freight Transport is a Amazon approved transport company with Amazon. So that means we're registered with their appointment making program called Carrier Central, where we can go with our SCAT code. We're an approved carrier. We can then set up the delivery appointments into the Amazon fulfillment centers by that PO requirement that it was written. So by doing that, you can ship your products into one of Harbor's strategically located warehouses around the U.S. We can give you the visibility to, this is where your product is, and then we can do, ensure proper packaging, ensure proper labeling per the Amazon vendor compliance manual, and then we can then take those shipments, schedule the delivery into the fulfillment center and deliver that product. That allows that vendor basically to have 100% control and visibility versus just putting it into the one-stop shop where you're then getting information fed. So it's a more of a direct relationship where the vendor would have with Harbor Freight. That gives a lot of benefits in terms of like freight rate negotiations. The Amazon, we pay vendors, that's one stop shop. Those are all negotiated rates, and you get what you get. Whereas if you want to set up your own relationship with Harbor, we're very client focused, and we will work with you on your rates to get you, a fair and equitable deal.
Okay, so some things I heard there is that um, uh, so with the one-stop shop, I blew, like I said, it sounds like it's ship and pray that everything's right. Um,
Yeah.
there's the I can quote do it myself, but it sounds like uh given that you're going to multiple locations, I'm assuming these locations only accepts shipments during specific times so that if you screw it up, there's going to be delays in shipping. I'm assuming that can lead to penalties.
Yes, chargebacks. Yes.
Okay. And of course, ultimately, if that happens enough, you're going to piss off Amazon and they're not going to be happy. So,
Yeah, you'll get flagged as a
okay, so
non-compliant vendor.
not flagged. So how to avoid being flagged by not as a non-compliant vendor. A topic for another discussion. And there's Harbor, and what you're saying is Harbor has multiple shipping receiving locations all across the U.S. You and vendors can ship their stuff in. Harbor will go in, make sure it's shipped or packaged correctly, labeled correctly. In other words, wrapped up with a bow
Hmm.
to be shipped to the correct Amazon um, fulfillment center and get it out so they can get it out to the customer or their locations faster, more efficiently, and less cost.
Yes, yeah, that's exactly it. And then, that the benefit to that vendor is they get to control their supply chain, right? They can use their contracts, their customs broker, and then, they will have to set up a rate structure with Harbor based on their product. The one-stop shop is kind of like, here's one set of pricing for a vast array of products. Whereas if we know, hey, this vendor, they ship, let's say, portable steam cleaners, right? Based on that product dimension and how it's shipped in the ocean container, that rate is a lot different than, let's say, somebody who's shipping um, palletized cargo, right? So that way they get to control their freight costs and get the visibility.
All right.
Um,
So in my non-freight brain, I, the thing I guess I ask is I can see why larger companies would just go the straight route with Amazon, but why would I guess my question is why would the smaller you are, the more you're going
yeah.
to get screwed. So why would you go with the one-stop shop as opposed to a harbor solution?
Well, I mean, there are benefits to that program. I mean, you can ship it to a consolidation center, it overseas and do that. But you got to understand, Fred, a lot of these customers, while we're talking about Amazon, a lot of these vendors, they could also be shipping to the Targets of the world, the Walmart.com of the world, eBay's, So that allows, if you go with the one stop shop, you have to take your little piece that's designated for Amazon and ship it this method, right? Whereas as a vendor overseas, if you have multiple other clients, Walmart, Target, eBay, etc., you can build all that, put it in, and then bring it to a harbor facility where we can do the sortation and break it out by client. Walmart has their own set of receiving and appointment making processes to get it into their fulfillment centers. Same as Target, right? So this way, it allows the vendor to have a more hands-on approach versus sticking it into a predetermined supply chain, for one particular client.
All right. So you just started to segue into a different topic, which I hadn't contemplated, and that is what do you, and it makes sense as you put with razor blades. I could be, if I'm going to ship razor blades, I'm going to ship a ton of them, but not everyone's going to accept a ton of razor blades because that would be centuries worth of product.
Right.
So I we'll go in a later episode of topic of when you're shipping to multiple recipients, why you do it. But for now, I want to end this segment with the question of what are what's the top thought you want to leave in viewers' heads about using Harbor Freight with the ship to Amazon as an
Yeah.
seller?
I, it's the top thought is just, control your own supply chain, right? Yeah, I think, vendors or clients have a better feeling when they know, the network. They they have their established ocean carrier rates, right? So they're more volume means better freight rates, et cetera, right? So you don't want to water that down. Same goes with transportation providers, right? So if you're doing business with a particular warehouse and you need that personal touch versus just getting thrown into a general warehouse of a bunch of commodities, that's where Harbor is. It's a family run company. There's not a lot of bureaucracy within it. Here's the scope of work that the client says needs to be executed, and we go out and execute. And we've got the systems, right? We operate a WMS system, Camelot, 3PL, Excalibur. It's fully integrated with all the major retailers: Walmart, Amazon, Shopify, eBay. So you get the real-time visibility of where your product is, because it is web-based. So you get your own username and password to it, and you can see your inventory and where it's at and the track and trace until final delivery.
So Eric likes to come up with new topics while topic. We'll go into that one all in another episode also,
Yeah.
folks. So
I just
the gist I got out of that is, and I think you said it best, one of the reasons why, if you're an Amazon vendor, you want to use Harbor Freight is you have better control over where your products are and what they look like to get them to Amazon. So from packaging and everything else, Harbor is going to give you more control over the process.
correct. Yes.
Wow. You taught me something. Thanks, Eric. We'll be back again with another episode with either Eric or Steve, folks. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Rolling in like the steel tides roar, engines echo through